Welcome to the Raise podcast. I'm Carol Barwick. We're here to raise your confidence and inspire your creativity. Each episode, we will have a different guest who will be discussing our Raise word. The Raise word is a word that will encourage you or empower you and at times inspire you to explore the word a little more for yourself. Well, hello everybody. Welcome to the Raise podcast. I'm Carol Barwick. We have looked at some amazing Raise words so far. We've looked at clarity, we've looked at connection, and today we're going to look at the word plan. And I'm very excited because I have one of my favourite people at church, Sarah Nicholson, to talk to us about her new book. So, good morning, Sarah. How are you doing?
Good morning. I'm very well. I'm very excited to be here. Thank you so much for having me.
I'm excited too because I haven't seen you for
a year, well over a year.
Ridiculous, isn't it? Ridiculous.
It is.
And yet here we are. So Sarah, we're going to talk about the word plan. Let me kick off by asking.
Yeah, well, we've been talking lots in my house about planning over the last kind of few days, really, thinking about this. And we were saying that me and my husband is Alex, and we have very different ideas about what planning looks like. Okay. He is a meticulous planner. If we're going to do anything, he's organised it. Whereas I am much more a go with the flow kind of person. And I think for me, I like to know what the plan is. I like to know what I'm doing. But I don't necessarily like to be the one that makes the plan, I think is kind of what I would say about my attitude towards planning.
Okay, interesting. Do you know why that is? Is there any?
Yeah, I think it's a good question. I think part of it might be that I don't like to have the responsibility of deciding what the whole family is going to do. Okay. I've got two young boys, a 7-year-old and a 5-year-old. And I like to be organised with them. I like to know what we're doing. But it is my husband who is the meticulous planner in our family.
Okay, interesting. Yeah, plans can give some people real security, can't it? And then for other people, it can feel like a bit of a cage. Like, okay, if we've got to plan everything, then where's the spontaneity? And I wonder, trying not to generalise, but I wonder if that is a bit of a creative thing, that planning.
Yes.
If we plan because we want something to be as good as it can be creatively, that's different to having to conform to this set of times or this set of, we're going to do this.
Yeah, perhaps. I think as well over the last year, the plans have been very much unsettled, I think it's fair to say. Even today, I was planning that my son would be doing his transition for school, and unfortunately, we're all isolating again for about the third time, I think.
Sarah.
So plans, they don't always work out today, and sometimes I think it's really important. Much as we try to hold on to those plans and know that what we're doing, and we know where we're going. Sometimes plans just don't work out today, and I think that is one thing that I've really learned over the last year. That as much as we might have plans, we might know what we want to do and where we're going, it doesn't always work out like that. And I think for me that has been a real journey over this last few years of, this is where I want to go, but actually if this is not how it happens, that's okay, and actually the plans will work out even if they're not the ones that we might have envisaged initially.
Yeah, that's interesting, because I think it's fair to say that you and I kind of believe that there's a bigger plan in place, and so there's a bigger plan in place for us, then, as we found in the last year and a half, be rudely taken off the turn.
Very rudely.
Suddenly had loads in the way, which we just weren't expecting. But ultimately, the destination kind of ends up the same.
Yeah, definitely.
In some way. And I guess it's how you deal with that, isn't it? It's how you manage it, and whether you sit in the car and go, well, I don't care if there's roadworks, I'm going to smash through the cones. I'm going to go that way anyway. Or if you kind of go, all right, well, we'll go the scenic route.
Yeah, I think so. And I think the temptation sometimes when these roadblocks are moved. Whereas I think what I've sort of learned over the last few months is actually we do need to find that scenic route. We do need to find another way around. And much as our plans might be fixed on this is what we're doing, actually, if I take a longer route there, if I go a different way, as long as I get to where I'm going in the end.
Yeah, because actually, although it's often said in a joke, the scenic route is more scenic. It's often kind of nicer, more gentle. Certainly, I know that there are people that would say, you know, this last kind of year and a half, they have been forced into a place where the peace and the kind of feeling of not being able to do anything has become a more gentle, scenic kind of way of doing life. I found that for myself, certainly to start off with, that it was a really safe place that I wasn't expecting to be in. Because when you talk about a pandemic, you don't often use the word safe, do you?
No, certainly not.
So interesting. So you have been planning something very exciting. When did you start planning this exciting thing, and what is it?
Yeah, okay. So I have, it feels scary to say this, but I have now written a book, and in a couple of weeks it is going to be out there for anyone who wants to read it, which is scary but exciting. So my first book, which is called Angelkind Elevation, will be out on the 24th of July. In terms of the planning, it is something that I have been working on for a lot of years, I think it's fair to say.
Okay.
I think, like, many people would say, my journey of writing started years and years and years ago. As soon as I was in school, and you start writing all those stories. And since I was about 4 years old, I remember sitting with my big sister, and we'd get the stapler out and put our pieces of paper together and write our books. And it's been something that I've always wanted to do. It's always been my plan to do this. And I think this book that I am writing now I've always wanted to write this book as well.
Okay.
I've toyed with other things, I've written other things as well, but this is the book that I've always come back to. It's been something that I've been planning to write for a long time. But in terms of actually going for it and sitting down and making those plans, I've said already that my husband is the planner in our family, and so I spent a lot of time saying to him, I think I'm going to do this. I think I should do it. But it took for us to sit down together, get the kids' felt tip pens out, sellotape loads of pieces of paper together so that the whole lounge was full of paper. And actually, we sat down about 4 or 5 years ago probably and wrote the plan of what was going to happen in this book and the next book, because there are, it's a part of a series of 3, the book that's coming out soon. And we sat together and we, with our color coded who was doing what, how it was going to happen, and we sat and planned that out together. And so for me, having somebody with me in that planning was really important. Having someone to talk that through with and to bounce those ideas off was a really important first stage. And that's kind of where the planning kind of diverges for me, between me and Alex, the way that we would have done it. So for me, that was enough planning, and then I just started to write. Whereas I think for Alex, he would have then sat down and made a chapter by chapter summary, and this will happen, and then this will happen. Whereas I was just a bit more like, oh, it'll be fine. I'll just start writing. It'll be great. Which it has. It's been a process. I've probably written about 200,000 words more than I needed to from taking that long scenic route, which I don't think I regret. I knew where I was going, and I knew how I was going to get there. It just took me a long time to get there. But for me, that has been part of the process of writing that. And my planning might not be efficient, but it gets there eventually, I think, is what I would say.
Interesting. So there's so much I want to pick up on. First of all, how did we manage to spend so much time talking about hats at church when we could have been talking about creative writing?
I do love a hat, that is true.
I know, but you also love creative writing, and so do I. So at some point we need to sit down with a coffee, talk about creative. We can talk about hats. That's Certainly. Fine. I noticed you haven't got a hat today, which is good, because people will know on the podcast I'm always referencing things that are physical, and then I have to backtrack and say, you can't see it because it's a podcast. So it's helpful that you haven't worn a hat. Yeah. But yeah, that's exciting. The second thing that I find so exciting is, did you plan the book with your family then? Did you all sit down?
Yeah, well, we did it. Well, the children were in bed, but they have been a huge part of this whole process. I mean, it really has been kind of a real family effort, I think it's fair to say. And I mean, Alex has been amazing, my husband, in this, and he has just been so supportive and helpful. He's read more drafts. It's been amazing. And I've got 2 boys. Samuel is going to be 7 in a few weeks, and Micah is 5. And Samuel in particular, I think just because he's that little bit bit older, has just been so involved and so supportive of the process all the way through. I think he's been telling people that Mummy is an author when I was desperately trying to embarrass and thinking, oh, this might never happen. He's been going out there and saying, oh, my mummy's writing a book and it's amazing. And I think part of my inspiration for wanting to do this was just to live up to his expectations. You know, children have so much faith in us. And it really inspired me when, you know, I was thinking, oh, well, you know, I've tried, maybe I should give up now, to think, do you know what? No, I can't, because my little boy's looking at me and he thinks I can do this. So I'll find a way to do it.
Come on, that is brilliant. Go Samuel, that's all I can say. But I think that's very true in terms of confidence, when we maybe struggle to say the words out loud, and then your little one says, no, actually, this is how it is. Seb told me that this morning. He said that they were writing things to tell their new teacher, and he said, I talk on my mummy's podcast. And it's lovely, isn't it? It's kind of like, you know, they kind of affirm and confirm what we already know, but maybe can't quite say out loud, because they just have this childlike, well, obviously you're an author because you're writing books, so get on with it.
Absolutely. And we all need that inspiration in our lives when it is so easy to doubt your own abilities and to think, you know what, I can't do this. But having someone that believes in you so fully is really amazing.
Yeah, but I do love that, because, you know, for other people, they might say, well, obviously the children can't be part of it because they don't understand, you know, and it would be very easy to say that and just say, well, it's just me and Alex sitting down and you know, but involving the children is so important, because they just have this fresh perspective, don't they?
Yeah, definitely.
On how it's going to happen. And so tell us a bit more about the actual novel then. Where did the inspiration come, and how did you kind of plan out the story and the story arc and things?
Well, this book is the first in a series of 3, and it's really about the idea of justice, I think, and how justice can mean really different things to different people, and how often true justice can seem like just out of reach. So in terms of the book itself, it follows the journey of a young and pretty predictable looking angel called Bo, who's just arrived in the upper realm. In the beginning, she doesn't know anything about this strange new world that she's living in, but she has a strong sense of duty and she really wants to make a difference. In this first book, she starts to discover a new world and gets to know her fellow angels, and she realises that the world isn't quite as perfect as she would hope that it is. So in terms of planning it for me, I knew that that's where I wanted to go. I knew what I wanted to do. So in terms, for me, it was a case of, I just need to sit down and write this. I think for me, I can spend a lot of time planning and thinking, oh, you know, I don't want to start anything until I know exactly what I'm doing. But I think for me, I just needed to sit down and start writing, which was really important. And once I started, I found that actually, once you get to know the characters and you know where you're going, it was just lots and lots of fun.
Yeah. And I think, you know, and you were saying, well, and I've gone 200,000 words, did you say, over what I thought I was going to?
It's not that long now. For anyone who's thinking, oh my gosh, what's she going to be making me read? It has been cut down quite a lot. I just wrote lots of extra ones.
But what I was going to say is those words are important, because the characters start writing themselves, don't you? I found that when I've kind of written scripts and things like that, the characters start saying things that I'm like, that wasn't what I was thinking, but it kind of lends itself to this kind of, you get taken over a bit, don't you? We were talking to the brilliant poet Jude Simpson a couple of episodes ago, and she was saying how when she had poems and songs in lockdown, she basically had to ignore everything else, family, everything, and just sit down and write. And it's like you kind of get taken over, and I totally understand that. It's, you know, it's kind of like, oh, do I have to eat? Seriously, do I have to go to bed? I really, that, you know, it's the flow.
Yeah.
In terms of planning and this flow, what was there ever a time where you got writer's block?
I think the start, I think, is always the hardest thing about anything is starting. I always think once you have sat down and you've got on with it, I think that works and that's okay. I think because I was kind of writing, because I wrote so much, and because it's a fantasy novel, it's based in a different world, so there was so much to plan and to write about, because you have got to create a whole new world for these characters to live in. That actually, even if I was writing things that weren't going to make it into the book, all that stuff was so useful for background that I found it quite reassuring to be able to use kind of the writing process as part of the planning. And so I'd be writing things that I knew were never going to make it into the book, but they'd be really helpful in terms of me understanding what the character was feeling or how that part of the world worked. So when it got too difficult to write a bit more of the story, I would go away and write, okay, so I'm going to write this little bit about the world now, and then it might not fit into the story, but at least it can keep going. And I think for me, the way that I kind of got over the writer's block, which I think is something that everybody has, was just by writing something that's different and trying not to put that pressure on yourself. And okay, this might not be, good enough to go in the book, but it is still important, and it is still part of what I need to do to create this world.
Yeah, that's a great kind of way of seeing it, just to go off. And did you say you went off and just wrote something different?
Yeah, right. It's something that was connected but different. So it's not going to be in the story, but I'm going to go and write about this meal that they had together, and how that worked. Or I'm going to go and write about a different experience from the different characters' point of view, just so that you can still be building that world.
Brilliant. Yes.
But without the pressure of this has got to fit in my book.
Yes, absolutely. But what I love about creating your own world is no one's allowed to come up and tell you you've done it wrong.
No.
That's why I love kind of writing songs or putting my own twist on them, because people can't say, no, you've done it wrong, because it didn't exist before I did it. Yeah. So, and if you're really reading this amazing book and then at the end of it you go, oh no, they ate the wrong thing in that part of the world, then, you've really got to find better things to do with your life, quite frankly. That is brilliant. So, what's your favourite part of the book?
Ooh, that's a good question. I think one thing that I really enjoyed was building that world, really, and trying to create a place that was so different. I mean, it's set in what is called the upper realm, and they're all angels, so I'm sure you can work out kind of what that is. Yeah. I think for me, just being able to really let your imagination go wild and think, what do I want this to look like? What you can when you start from literally nothing, you think, right, what do I want them to be able to eat? What do I want it to look like? What animals do I want to be around in this place? And I think having that complete creative freedom was really quite amazing, really. And I think it can feel like a lot of pressure in terms of, is this all consistent? Does this all make sense? But I think what I really enjoyed was just having that freedom to think, like you said, it is what I want it to be. So yeah, it was really great.
I don't know about you, but I'm really enjoying listening to Sarah talking all about plans and how important they are. Now we're back into school, you might be just wanting something for your child after school, and the online singing lessons are perfect for that. So do get in touch if you'd like some at www.raiseforall.com, or find us on our social media, Facebook or Instagram. Back to the episode.
That is brilliant, and it's lovely to hear the enthusiasm that is coming out of you as you talk about your book, which may sound a funny thing to say, but I think sometimes, particularly when you talked about finding it difficult to actually say I'm an author, it can be difficult, kind of, especially when it's actually there, to kind of go, I'm still really pleased with it. This is still happening. And obviously you've got the exciting bit now of people reading it. I'm excited. I'm really excited about it. And for our listeners, obviously we'll put all the details in the show notes of Sarah Nicholson's book, so you can go and buy it and enjoy it. That would be absolutely brilliant. In kind of past times, have there been things that you've done that have helped you to plan?
Oh, it's a good question. I think generally I am somebody who likes, as I said earlier, I like to follow plans. In my normal life, I am a teacher, So
Okay.
I do a lot of planning, even
Yeah.
just in terms of planning lessons, planning kind of what I'm going to do with myself. And so I think I have always been quite good at following plans. And I like to plan kind of small areas of my life. But I think for me, the most important thing about planning is adaptability,
Yeah.
which is not something I find easy, I have to be honest. And it is something that I'm still working on. But I think the most important thing for me is that if I've got a plan, which I do, there is usually a plan there. You know, as much as I say I don't like planning, I do always have a plan of what I want to do and where I'm going. But it is just about being adaptable, of being ready to say, this isn't going to work, let's try something else, whether that's in a lesson at school or whether that's in a meal that I've made for the kids and actually they're just saying, do you know what, I can't eat this, can I have some toast? No matter what it is, just being ready to make those changes really, and to try something new.
Yeah, I was going to say, have you got any examples of a time when you've really put a plan together and it's just not worked, and you found that something's kind of come out of it?
Yeah, I think we've all had times, haven't we, where we've planned something and you have these great expectations that they're going to be amazing. Even just things like this time last year, we were supposed to be going on a 6-week tour around France, and
Wow.
we'd got it all planned out. The kids were really excited, but actually we just spent 6 weeks in our garden, and it was great. And from the kids' point of view, they had a wonderful time. They still got to see mummy and daddy all the time. They still got to play with each other all the time, and it was great fun. And so I think sometimes we put so much pressure on ourselves once we've made a plan to think, this is important. And it's not just for me that it's important for my family, and it's important for the people that are looking at me and watching me and seeing what I do, that I have to follow through on all these plans. But I think for me, I am just quite relaxed about thinking, do you know what? If it needs to change, it needs to change. And even just as recently as this week, I don't know if you've seen, I've been kind of putting a few things out on social media about what the cover's going to look like. And I don't know if it's because I had too much time in isolation, but I suddenly decided 3 days ago that no, the cover's wrong. I'm going to change the cover. I know we planned it. I know it's gone out there, but actually I think we need to change it. And so we are. It'll be fine. And that's the kind of the great thing about publishing myself, not having anyone else that I need to run that by. I can just decide, actually, do you know what? I'm going to change the cover. That's fine. And so I think, having those plans, but just being ready to think, actually, what I've decided wasn't the right thing, so I'm going to change it, is really important.
Yeah, it's important to stay true to yourself, isn't it?
Yeah.
And it's that kind of thing of cutting your nose off to spite your face. If you didn't change the book cover, you would forever be thinking, why didn't I just do that? Because then you're not happy with it. So that's great. And that's I would say exciting, and it is exciting, but we haven't seen the old cover to compare it.
You won't even notice. It'll be fine.
Yeah, and that's the thing about planning, isn't it? When we plan, we know the meticulous things that go into it.
Yeah.
Everybody else just sees the brilliant final result, don't they? Which is really exciting. Just for our listeners, the thing that's really impressed on me today is about the scenic route. So I want you just to have a think today and over this week. Where could you just be more comfortable with taking the scenic route? Is there a part of life at the moment where you are desperate to follow the plan, but actually just holding things lightly might help you to just have that more gentle, lovely scenic route? So just have a little think about that. We like to set a little challenge every time, Sarah, so the listeners are kind of just thinking, because at the end of the day, it's about raising confidence and inspiring creativity. And I think planning can really do that. It can give you confidence. It can inspire you. But I went on a program called The Lions, which is a Christian business program. And one of the things that I really left with was about holding things lightly. And I think sometimes when you plan, you forget to hold it lightly, don't, because you're like, that's what it says. It is written here, but we are doing it. And I think that's one of the things that lockdown really turned on its head, wasn't it? It was like, it might be written there, but you are not allowed to do it anymore. It's been a really interesting way of doing life, I think. And hopefully we're really coming out of it now, and it's going to be something that we've learned rather than something that's
ongoing.
Yeah, I was going to say a way of life, but there are some things that we've learned, I think, that need to become a way of life. So it's kind of working that out, isn't there?
Definitely.
How do the boys react to a plan? Do they like it? Do they find it a kind of a secure thing, or are they wanting to kind of go off and do their own things?
I think my boys are very different to each other. We often joke, Alex and I, that we've got one of each. So Samuel is exactly like his dad. He loves a plan. Even from being a baby, you know, you do all those, you know, you have your newborn and you read all the books about routine, and Samuel was straight in his routine. You know, we'd go to bed at 7, you know, we'd wake up, we'd do his naps, we'd eat at the right times. He's always loved a plan. Whereas Micah is a little bit more like me. We'll say flexible. We'll say that.
Okay. Yeah.
And he's very happy to kind of to go with the flow, to see what happens. He has, I think, in terms of the lockdown and obviously the impact that that's had on 2 young boys who were, I mean, Samuel was in the start of reception when we locked down, Micah was at nursery. And I think Micah found it more difficult with all the change, just because as much as he didn't like to have a plan, he did like to kind of to know that there was some structure in his life and that things were going to happen. So I think they both deal with disruption to their plans quite differently. I think Micah is more able to deal with the changes that come across, even though we might find that more difficult. Samuel likes to know exactly what he's doing, but if we tell him it's something different, he's like, oh, okay, well, that's fine, as long as you know what we're doing, that's okay. But yeah, I think both of them have had to learn to deal with change and disruption to plans quite a lot over the last few months, as we all have.
Yeah. What I found really difficult last summer was when I was really at the height of long COVID and struggling. I just didn't know what Seb's summer holidays were going to look like at all. And obviously you couldn't even plan to go and do some things. So what I did was I had a red bowl, a yellow bowl and a green bowl, because I work on a traffic light system. So a red bowl is bad energy day, yellow or orange is kind of middle, green is pretty good. And we had activities in the bowl for each day. And so he knew that whichever light I was, we would definitely do something. But if it was a red day, that would mean we would definitely watch a film, chill out. He'd be able to like go on the Xbox or something. If it was a yellow day, we could maybe go for a walk, but that would be it. And then a green day, we could maybe pop into a shop and know do. So that helped him. I think it gave him some security, but I felt like having lots of different activities for each day also gave him that excitement of, well, I'm not quite sure what I'm going to do, and it was a bit of surprise as well. But I've been amazed at how much he has kind of adapted, and he just asks me every day now, what color light are you? He lives for the days when I say rainbow sparkles day is like, bring it on, we're we're going to take over the world kind of thing. And but children are really interesting, aren't they, when it comes to their approach to our plans and what we think they should be doing versus what they think they should be doing.
Absolutely.
Which I'm sure we've got lots of things to look forward to as they get older. But we don't need to worry about that just yet. Okay, Sarah, so we come to the part of the show which is it's a bit nerve-wracking for me, because I've never planned anything, because this is the part of the show where I write you a little verse, and the whole idea is that it isn't planned, because that's more fun to listen to for everybody else, slightly more scary for me.
Absolutely.
So I'm just going to take a couple of seconds to get myself together. Okay. We may have plans, but they're out of our hands. The direction we go may be unclear, but we have belief in a bigger God, and we'll be fine whilst we know He is near.
That's awesome.
That's what I'm going with.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome. This has been a really lovely conversation. Thank you so much for taking the time to talk to me this morning. I feel like I've learned loads and loads, and I'm super excited for your book. So plug, off you go. Tell us everything we need to know.
Oh, thank you so much. It's called Angelkind Elevation. It's available on Amazon on the 24th of July. You can if you go to my website, which is www.sarahnicholsonwrites.co.uk, you can download the first chapter as an audiobook, so you can be listening to that now, and we'll send you all the details when you sign up so that you can be the first to buy it when it's available. Thank you very much.
Sounds brilliant. And as I said, we'll put everything in the show notes as well. So there's no excuses. Go and buy Sarah's book and enjoy it. I'm excited about these worlds. I really want to find out more about how you've created these worlds and what they're like and things. So what age is it for, Sarah, just as a benchmark?
Well, it's fantasy, so anyone who reads fantasy really, probably starting from sort of young adult fantasy but upwards. I mean, I have to say I still read lots of young adult fantasy, so I don't think age can be a barrier really, but anyone from sort of 11, 12 upwards, I would say.
Okay, that's super brilliant. And don't forget, listeners, just have a little think about where you might be holding on really tightly to a plan when actually the scenic route is going to be the more gentle and the nicer way to get to the same place. Have a think about that. If you want to talk to me about that, you can find me on our Facebook group, our Raise Facebook group, or you can pop me a DM on Instagram, and you can also come onto our website and you'll find out all the other things that we're doing as well. Sarah, you have been brilliant, and look forward to actually meeting you at church at some point in the not too distant future, where we will talk about hats and creative writing.
Thank you so much for having me.
Brilliant. Thanks, Sarah. Take care. Bye-bye.
A final thought from Seb.
Plans are nothing, planning is everything.
Thank you for listening to the Raise podcast. We hope you feel raised and inspired by this episode. Whilst we're not offering face-to-face classes currently, we are doing online singing lessons where you can have your voice raised as well as your confidence. If you would like to find out more, please visit our website at www.raiseforall.com or find us on social media on either our Facebook or Instagram page. Take care.